right, it's time to talk up the Bayou Bengals here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like the videos, comment, subscribe, and share the videos to help us build the channel where we aim to bring on the best discussion, debate, and analysis in college football. We got Billy Gomilla on the line to talk LSU. You can join Billy and the rest of the staff there at SB Nations and the Valley Shook. Billy, how you doing?
Doing good, doing good.
You got the right colors on. I see that.
Actually, the shirt's actually brown, but it's showing up purple, looks like, on my screen.
It absolutely is. Okay, you fooled us with that one. But
there we go.
Regardless, LSU's been in camp pretty much the entire time. They're just wrapping up things with the spring game coming up on April 6th. It's no big surprise to anyone that the offensive line has been kind of the centerpiece based on other personnel groups being very stable. The offensive line, I don't think there's any question, was a bit subpar by standard last year. So what has taken shape during the spring? Anything you know of as we project toward August?
I think it's a group that's still kind of shuffling around a lot. They actually have four starters back, and another 3 or 4 guys who kind of were spot starters or have some quote unquote starting experience back from last year. And it wouldn't surprise me if maybe some guys are at different spots in the fall. There's some big time freshmen coming in. Cardell Thomas, who was a big 5-star recruit at guard. Anthony Bradford, who they really, really like as a tackle/guard kind of prospect. And wouldn't surprise me if either of those guys push for some time early, but it also wouldn't surprise me if maybe guys like, right tackle last year, Austin Deculus, he could maybe move inside the guard. So he's a pretty good run blocker. He's not great with his feet. So that kind of limits him to tackle a little bit. They've got their rock at center in the middle, Lloyd Cushenberry, who was very good last year, first-year starter. Rest of it's I think it's a matter of finding the right mix and keeping guys healthy. Last year, they really struggled with injuries. At one point, they were playing something like 6 different lineups and might have been 6 or 7 games. And it's really hard to build continuity and cohesion, and that's just such an important part of offensive line play.
LSU coming off a top 10 finish and bowl victory over Central Florida, of course. A nice year under Coach O. We got Billy Gomilla on the line from And the Valley Shook, the SB Nation platform for LSU athletics. Let's talk about the spring game just in regards to expectations. There's, as you mentioned, a lot of known factors, but what's going to catch your eye besides the offensive line? Any particular players that you would like to see jump out?
Well, obviously, we'd like to see the quarterbacks do well. That's always a big thing for LSU. Joe Burrow was pretty solid last year. He's kind of a game management worker type of quarterback. Pick your cliche, but I think there's a chance for him if the rest of the offense can grow around him. I think that there's a chance that he could do a lot better just based on his supporting cast. If he's got more in the tank than he showed, and we saw him really kind of do really well in that bowl game and threw for, I think, 394 yards and four touchdowns and really kind of take off. And maybe that's more his ceiling and with the right players around him. And seeing those receivers, younger receivers, still coming along, we're really hoping to see them kind of. I'm not expecting them to necessarily light up the spring game, but I'm looking for guys who can get open and catch the ball reliably, and that would be a really nice thing to see on Saturday. Even if they're not necessarily going for 50-yard touchdowns, just converting third downs, keeping the chains moving, things like that. The things that will lead to big days against secondaries that aren't as talented as LSU's is this year. Offense, running game. You're waiting on 2 big-time freshman tailbacks to arrive in the summer that I think are going to really press for playing time. So I think you're still kind of incomplete there. You got some veteran back who I do think will help, but they're not going to be your bell cows, I don't think, by the end of the season.
Yeah, Joe Burrow at just under 58% completion percentage, 2,900 yards, 16 TDs, 5 interceptions. We could probably place those numbers and put them right on top of Danny Edling's, and it was probably pretty much, although it may have looked a little bit different, pretty much the same productivity. And you kind of alluded to it, Billy, in regards to the expectations of Joe Burrow. When you get a quarterback from a place like Ohio State who was supposed to challenge for the job, some people expected more. But some people I hear nothing to my channel, and I know that I'm getting the cross section of college football fans, nothing but criticism. This guy's marginal, or they use a little bit more colorful language, just that he's really not that good. But at the same time, I think people forget that the guy stepped on campus at the beginning of August, never really got acclimated, and boom, he's got the job, and he's facing Miami right out of the gate.
Yeah, do I think he has all SEC potential? Probably not, but can he be a good, solid quarterback, good enough to win a lot of games for LSU? Danny Etling won a lot of games here. He was good enough to beat the teams that LSU should be able to beat, and yeah, he struggled against some good defenses. And that's what happens to a lot of quarterbacks. I thought Joe Burrow grew through his early part of the year. He had some struggles, but down the stretch, he really got better as the season went on. More than anything, he showed that he's willing to take a lot of hits, take a lot of punishment. He plays with some guts. He's definitely a guy that I think in year two, you're going to see, I think, that team really respond to him. And it wouldn't surprise me if he's one of the team captains and one of the team leaders this year. Is he going to go out there and throw for 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns? Probably not, but can he do a lot better and be pretty solid? And if the rest of the team around him can rise to that occasion, I think there's a misnomer that LSU was loaded on offense last year, and they really weren't. They had some talented freshmen. Running backs were probably not as good as we've had in recent years, and an offensive line that was banged up. And I think all in all, they kind of made the best of it. It could have been better, but I don't think they're necessarily far off right now. Now, this year is going to be a big litmus test for that, and they're going to have to improve.
You know better than I do, Billy, that from the time Nick Saban established this as a power, basically his second year, he won the SEC, then he won the national championship 2 years later, on through Les Miles. It's been SEC or bust. And with the SEC, basically, college football's best conference most of that time comes a national championship run. So that's pretty much been the expectation. And then here in the last couple of years, it's been tapered off. But then they overachieved to a certain extent in a lot of people's eyes last year. I think there are going to be expectations that despite Alabama's presence, that they're going to challenge for an SEC championship.
Well, and then Alabama's presence is no small thing. I mean, right now they kind of dominate the conference, dominate the league, and LSU doesn't have a luxury that, say, Kirby Smart in Georgia has of not necessarily having to face Alabama. So far from what we've seen, when they have to go through Alabama, they kind of spit the bit a little bit, and that's a heck of a thing for LSU to try and get over. Now, if they can get to the point where that's the only thing they have to get over, that puts you in pretty good position. That this year they're going to have a much more favorable schedule compared to last year, where they really had maybe one or two, really just one, I would say, layup game, and that was Rice. You had Southeastern's a pretty good FCS school. You had Louisiana Tech, who was in a bowl game, and then you had Georgia coming in here. You had Alabama. You really didn't get a break. This year, you swap out Georgia for who am I thinking? Vanderbilt. You do go to Texas, and that's tough, but that's in week 2, and they're going to be, I think, breaking in a lot of new players early on. And in general, I think it's a more manageable schedule than what we've been used to. And you still got Alabama, but to me, what I've been telling people for years is LSU needs to worry about LSU first, and then worry about Alabama. And if they can get to the point where they're playing to the best of their abilities, and maybe that's still not enough to get by Alabama, but that might still get you into the college football playoff, or it might just get you, an 11-1 season that sends you to the Sugar Bowl or sends you to another Access Bowl is nothing to shake a stick at, and ideally, in the course of Ed Orgeron's tenure, that would still constitute progress, and they're still building, and you could still continue to build off that and get to the point where you can consistently challenge Alabama.
Hey, Billy, for those people that are going to watch the spring game and have an eye toward August and then want to keep their eyes and ears open toward tracking August camp, if there's a player or two or three, you can take it in any direction for as many as you want, that maybe didn't play much last year, special teams, whatever, or an incoming freshman that you really are intrigued to see play, who would that or those guys be?
Oh, that's easy. Derek Stingley for sure. He was the number one cornerback in the class of 2019 out of right here in Baton Rouge, and in fact, he was the highest rated cornerback that LSU has ever signed according to the 247 rankings, higher even than Patrick Peterson, which obviously that says a lot. And he's here this spring. He'll be playing on Saturday, and I would expect him to have the odds on favorite position to start opposite Christian Fulton, who was very, very good last year, opposite Greedy Williams. On top of that, you also have a freshman nose tackle named Siaki Apu Ika, who has come in as an early enrollee, and by most accounts has been very impressive. I expect him to get in the rotation on LSU's defensive line, and I'm going to be watching both those guys amongst some of the veterans who are a little unknown. Tight end Jamal Pettigrew was going to be last year's number 2 tight end, blew out his knee in the summer. If he could stay healthy, he's maybe more of a receiving tight end than what LSU's had in recent years. We'll see. That obviously LSU hasn't really featured a tight end in a long time, so we'll see if that pans out. And other than that, I'm just watching some of the last year's young guys like Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall, Justin Jefferson, see how they progress and how they get better.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the LSU Tigers. And we've enjoyed the analysis with Billy Gomilla from SB Nation's and the Valley Shook for quite a few years. Billy, we appreciate you making time tonight.
Absolutely. Anytime, man.